I still remember the exact moment I threw my phone into the ocean. The weight of it leaving my hand, the brief arc through the salt air, the satisfying splash as it disappeared beneath the waves. My mother's name was flashing on the screen when it went under. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel sadness. I felt free. But before I tell you how I got here sitting on this yacht with champagne in my hand, and the family that tortured me for 30 years, finally getting exactly what they deserved, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been the one who gave everything and got nothing in return, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to tell you might just save your life the way it saved mine. And comment below telling me if you've ever been the family scapegoat, because trust me, you're not alone. Now let me take you back to where it all began, to the night that changed everything. It was Thanksgiving 10 years ago. I was 22 years old, working 2 jobs, while trying to finish my bachelor's degree at a state university. I had just lost my evening shift at the campus bookstore because they were cutting hours and I was behind on my student loan payments. The stress was crushing me, but I told myself that family was supposed to be there for you during hard times. That's what they always said, right? Family first. I drove home through the early November darkness to my parents' house in the suburbs, a typical American colonial with white siding and black shutters. My mother had texted me to make sure I came early to help with dinner. Of course she did. I was always the one who helped, who did the dishes, who cleaned up after everyone else. My younger sister, Laya, never lifted a finger. When I walked in, the house smelled like roasted turkey and pie. My mother was in the kitchen, and I immediately started washing the dishes that were already piling up in the sink. That's when I heard the squealing from the driveway. Laya burst through the front door, her phone already out, filming herself. She was 19, just graduated from high school that spring, and she had that same entitled smile she'd worn since she was 5 years old. Oh my God, you guys have to see this," she was saying to her phone, doing that annoying influencer voice. "Mom, Dad, come outside right now." My parents rushed out like she'd announced she won the lottery. I dried my hands and followed confused. In the driveway sat a brand new BMW white with a red bow on top, gleaming under the porch lights like something out of a commercial. "Surprise, baby girl," my father shouted, dangling the keys. "Congratulations on graduating high school, you deserve it." My mother was crying happy tears, hugging Leia, while my sister jumped up and down. I stood there on the porch, my wet hands going cold in the November air, trying to process what I was seeing. That car cost at least $40,000, maybe more. I had asked them for help with my student loans just last month. $5,000. Just enough to keep me from defaulting, to keep me in school. They had said no. They said they couldn't afford it, that I needed to be more responsible, that I should have chosen a cheaper school. But they could afford a BMW for Laya's high school graduation. We went back inside for dinner. I couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. Leia spent the entire meal showing everyone photos of her new car from different angles, planning what vanity plate to get, talking about which of her friends she'd let borrow it. My mother carved the turkey with mechanical precision, chatting with my father about how proud they were of Leia, how she was going to community college next semester, how beautiful she looked in her graduation photos. I waited for someone to ask me how school was going, how my job search was going, anything. Nobody did. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, I took a breath and spoke up. "Mum, Dad, I actually wanted to talk to you about something," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. "I lost my bookstore job and I'm really struggling with my loan payments. I was wondering if there was any way you could help me out just this once, maybe just a few thousand to keep me afloat until I find something else." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother set down the carving knife and looked at me with this expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. It wasn't quite disgust, but it wasn't far off. It was the look she gave the neighbour's dog when it pooped on our lawn. "Carenza," she said, and I'll never forget her words as long as I live. "Your sister's needs will always be our priority. She's special. She has potential. You, on the other hand, have always been last on our list. You're 22 years old. Figure it out yourself." I felt like I'd been slapped, but I tried again, my voice shaking now. "But you just bought Leia a $40,000 car. I'm only asking for $5,000. I'm your daughter too." My father set down his fork, his face reddening. "Don't be selfish, Carenza. Be happy for your sister. We've worked hard to give her nice things. She appreciates us. You just complain." I complain. My voice was rising now, all the years of being overlooked, being dismissed, being treated like I didn't matter, coming to the surface. "I'm the one who helped you move last year. I'm the one who took care of Grandma when she was sick. I'm the one who babysat Laya for free all through high school while you guys went on cruises. I never asked for anything." I slammed my hand on the table, making the glasses shake. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. My father's hand across my face, not hard enough to really hurt, but hard enough to humiliate me, hard enough to put me in my place. "Don't you dare raise your voice in this house," he said. I looked around the table through tears I refused to let fall. Laya was smirking her phone in her lap, probably texting her boyfriend Noah about what a loser her sister was. My mother had gone back to eating like nothing had happened. That's when I made my decision. I stood up, grabbed my coat and walked toward the door. It was snowing outside, the first real snow of the season already starting to accumulate. "Where do you think you're going?" my mother called after me. I turned around one last time. "I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back until you people beg me to." My father laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck with that, princess. You'll be back when you need money." I walked out into the snow and drove away in my beat-up Honda Civic, the windshield wipers barely keeping up with the storm. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. That night, I slept in my car in a grocery store parking lot, using my coat as a blanket. It was the first night of my new life. The next 10 years were brutal. I won't sugarcoat it. I worked 3 jobs at once, slept 4 hours a night, lived in a studio apartment the size of a closet with 2 roommates. I finished my degree while working full-time, then got my MBA at night school. I ate ramen for dinner, more times than I can count. I wore the same interview suit to 100 job interviews until I finally got my break. I cut off all contact with my family, blocked their numbers, blocked them on social media, moved without telling them where. Every time I wanted to give up, every time I wanted to call my mum and apologise just to have a family again, I remembered that Thanksgiving. I remembered being slapped at the dinner table. I remembered my mother's words. Last on the list. I used that pain as fuel. I started as a junior accountant at a small firm in New York City. I was ruthless efficient, and I never made the same mistake twice. I networked like my life depended on it, because it did. I took every opportunity, worked every angle, made myself indispensable. Within 5 years, I was a senior financial analyst. Within 7, I was a director. By year 9, I was the chief financial officer of a mid-size investment firm in Manhattan, making more money in a year than my parents made in a decade. I bought a penthouse in Tribeca. I hired a personal trainer, a stylist, a financial advisor. I became the woman I always knew I could be if I wasn't being held back by people who saw me as their servant. And I made one very good friend along the way. Ava, a corporate lawyer with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, became the sister I wish I'd had. She knew my whole story and had her own version of it. We understood each other. Meanwhile, I had no idea what was happening with my biological family. I didn't care. They were dead to me, until they weren't. It started with a friend request on LinkedIn that got through my filters. Liar. I ignored it. Then an email to my work address which I had my assistant delete. Then another, then 5 more. Then they showed up at my office. I was in a meeting with the board when my assistant interrupted, looking flustered. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Carenza, but there are people in the lobby claiming to be your family. Security is dealing with it, but they're causing a scene." I excused myself and pulled up the security camera feed on my phone. There they were. My mother, my father, and Laya all looking 10 years older and considerably more desperate. My mother was crying, my father was yelling at the security guard, and Laya was filming the whole thing on her phone, probably trying to go viral with some sob story. "Call the police if they don't leave in 5 minutes, I told my assistant, "and get me Ava on the phone." They left before the police arrived, but the damage was done. They'd made enough of a scene that people were asking questions. In my world, reputation was everything. Ava sent them a cease and desist letter that afternoon. "If you come near my client again, we will pursue a restraining order and press charges for harassment." I thought that would be the end of it. 2 weeks later, they found out where I lived. I was coming home from the gym around 8 in the evening, pulling into the underground parking garage of my building, when I saw them waiting by my parking spot. Somehow they'd gotten past building security. My mother stepped in front of my car, forcing me to stop. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding. Then I got out. "How did you find me?" I asked, my voice ice cold. "We hired a private investigator," my father said, like he was proud of himself. "We're family Carenza. You can't just abandon your family." "Watch me," I said, walking past them toward the elevator. My mother grabbed my arm. Up close, I could see how much she'd aged. There were deep lines around her eyes, grey streaking through her hair. She looked tired. "Good. Your sister is in trouble," she said, her voice breaking. "We need your help. Noah is in jail. He's facing serious charges. We need money for bail and for a lawyer. If you don't help us, he's going to prison." "Noah," I said. "Laya's boyfriend. What did he do?" "It's all a misunderstanding." Laya jumped in, her voice shrill. "He made some investments that went wrong. The government is calling it fraud, but it wasn't. He needs a good lawyer to prove it." I looked at my sister. She was still pretty, but there was something harder about her now. The entitlement was still there, but it was wrapped in desperation. "How much?" I asked. $250,000 for bail," my father said, "and another $100,000 retainer for the lawyer. We know it's a lot, but you're so successful now. You can afford it. We're family. You have to help us." I almost laughed. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called Ava, putting her on speaker. "Ava, I need you here. Parking garage. Bring security." "What's wrong?" Her voice was instantly alert. "Nothing I can't handle. Just need a witness." While we waited for Ava, my mother fell to her knees, literally on the concrete floor of the parking garage, grabbing at my legs. "Please, Carenza, I'm begging you. She's your sister. She'll die if Noah goes to prison. She loves him. Don't you have any compassion?" I looked down at her, this woman who gave birth to me, and felt absolutely nothing. "Did you have compassion when you told me I was last on your list? When you bought Laya a BMW while I was eating ramen to survive, when Dad slapped me for asking for help?" My father's face went red again. "You're still holding on to that. It was 10 years ago. Grow up." "Oh, I grew up," I said. "That's the problem. I grew up and realised I don't owe you people anything." That's when Noah appeared from behind a pillar. I hadn't seen him there. He was bigger than I remembered, and he looked angry. He rushed toward me, and for a moment I thought he might actually hit me. But Ava arrived right then with 2 security guards, and she had her pepper spray out before Noah could get within 3 feet of me. "Back up right now," she said, her lawyer voice in full effect, "or I'm calling the police and adding assault to your boyfriend's charges." Noah stopped, breathing hard. "This bitch has millions and won't help her own family. What kind of person does that?" "The kind who learned that family is a privilege, not a right," I said. "And you people lost that privilege a long time ago." But then, watching them all standing there, desperate and pathetic, I had an idea. A delicious, terrible idea. "Actually," I said slowly, "I've changed my mind. I will help you." The relief on their faces was almost comical. "But not for free," I continued. "Come to my lawyer's office tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. We'll discuss terms." My mother looked confused. "Terms? Did you think I was just going to write you a check?" I smiled. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Ava will text you the address. Don't be late." The next morning they arrived at Ava's law firm exactly on time, probably the first time any of them had been punctual in their lives. We met in a conference room, all glass and chrome, high above the city. I had 3 copies of a contract waiting. "What's this?" my father asked, picking up the document. "Your salvation," I said, "or your destruction, your choice." Ava walked them through it, her voice professionally neutral. It was a loan agreement, but not a normal one. I was offering them $350,000. Enough to bail out Noah and hire a decent lawyer. But the terms were specific. First, the money was a loan, not a gift with market rate interest. Every asset they still owned, including their house, would be collateral. If they missed a single payment, I could foreclose immediately. Second, Laya and Noah had to attend mandatory financial counselling and substance abuse screening. Turns out Noah had a gambling problem on top of the investment fraud. Laya had racked up $70,000 in credit card debt buying designer clothes for Instagram. Third, and this was my favourite part, they had to sign a sworn affidavit, notarised and legally binding, admitting to 30 years of emotional abuse, favouritism and financial discrimination against me. If they violated any terms of the loan agreement, I would publish this document. Fourth, I would control their finances. They would turn over all credit cards, bank statements, everything. I would give them a weekly allowance based on their behaviour and progress. The room was dead silent when Ava finished reading. "You're insane," Noah said. "This is extortion." I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. This is the evidence I have of your wire fraud, tax evasion, and the fake charity you set up to funnel money from my parents' retirement accounts. I can send this to the FBI right now, or you can sign the contract. Your choice. You have 5 minutes." His face went white. "Carenza, this is cruel," my mother whispered. "We made mistakes, but this is vindictive." "No," I said, leaning back in my chair. "This is business. You taught me that love is conditional, that family helps those who deserve it. Well, I'm helping you, but you have to earn it. Just like you made me earn every scrap of affection I ever got from you." Laya was crying now, mascara running down her face. "You want to humiliate us. You want everyone to know you're better than us." I looked at her, this little princess who'd had everything handed to her while I fought for crumbs. "I don't need to humiliate you," I said. "You've done that yourselves. I'm just making sure you understand something very clearly. In this room, my money is the priority, my terms matter, and you three, you're last on the list." I watched those words hit them, the same words my mother had said to me 10 years ago. My father stood up. "We're not signing this, we'll find the money somewhere else." "No, you won't," Ava said calmly. "We've already checked. You're $500,000 in debt. Your house is underwater. You have no assets, no savings, and no one else willing to help you. This is your only option." For 20 minutes they argued among themselves. Noah wanted to take his chances with a public defender. Laya was hysterical. My parents looked like they'd aged another 10 years in the last hour. Finally my father picked up the pen. "We'll sign," he said, "but I want you to know you're destroying this family." "No, Dad," I said quietly. "You destroyed it a long time ago. I'm just making sure you can't destroy me anymore." They signed, all of them, every page, every clause, every humiliating admission of what they'd done to me. When it was done, Ava notarized everything and put the documents in her safe. I had my assistant transfer the money within the hour. "We'll be in touch about your first financial counselling session," I told them as they left. "And remember, I'm watching everything. Every purchase, every payment, every decision. You work for me now." The next 6 months were glorious. I made them send me weekly reports of their spending. Laya had to get a job at Walmart as a cashier, the first real job she'd ever had. She would call me crying about how the managers yelled at her, how customers were rude, how her feet hurt from standing all day. I listened with the same compassion my mother had shown me when I was working 3 jobs to survive, which is to say, none at all. Noah made bail but was still facing trial. He had to sell his car, his watch collection, everything. I made him take the bus to his community service assignments and his court-ordered therapy. My parents had to downsize from their suburban house to a small apartment in a worse neighbourhood. They called it a punishment. I called it reality. Every Sunday night, I made them attend family therapy via Zoom. I would sit there with a glass of wine, listening to the therapist unpack decades of dysfunction. Sometimes I participated, usually I just watched. The therapist asked me once if I felt like I was being too harsh. "They taught me that love is something you earn through suffering," I told her. "I'm just teaching them what that feels like from the other side." 3 months into our arrangement, I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my phone pinged with an alert from the monitoring software I had installed on all their accounts. My coffee went cold in my hand as I watched the numbers scroll across the screen. Laya and Noah were trying to take out a payday loan, $15,000 at a predatory interest rate that would make a loan shark blush. And they were forging documents claiming assets that no longer existed, trying to hide the money from me. I sat back in my leather chair and smiled. Ava walked into my office and saw my expression. "That's your dangerous smile," she said. "What happened?" I turned the screen toward her. She read it, then looked at me with raised eyebrows. "Are you going to stop them?" "No," I said slowly, the plan already forming in my mind. "I'm going to let them hang themselves with their own rope. I want to see exactly how far they'll go, how desperate they really are." For the next 72 hours, I watched everything. I watched them fill out the fraudulent application. I watched the money get approved. I watched $15,000 land in an account they thought I didn't know about. I gave them exactly 24 hours to enjoy it, to believe they'd outsmarted me, to taste freedom. Then I made my move. At precisely 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, I had Ava file the breach of contract notice. Every clause they'd violated documented with screenshots, timestamps, and evidence they'd never know I had. I called in the entire loan, $350,000, due immediately, not in 30 days, not in a week, now. My phone started ringing within minutes. First my father, then my mother, then Liar, then Noah. 17 calls in the first hour alone. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I activated the foreclosure. The apartment they'd just moved into, the one they'd been living in for barely 3 months, I owned the building. I hadn't told them that. The eviction notice was served that afternoon. The used Honda they'd scraped together money to buy after Noah's BMW was repossessed, seized. I had a tow truck take it from the parking lot while they were inside packing. Every bank account frozen, every asset liquidated, every safety net gone. And then I published the affidavit. Not on social media. That would be too easy, too impersonal. I wanted them to feel it in their real lives where it mattered. I sent copies to their church, where my mother had been attending for 30 years, where she volunteered and played the role of devoted Christian woman. I sent it to their pastor with a personal note explaining the situation. I sent copies to their neighbours, the ones who'd watched Liar grow up and thought she was such a sweet girl. The ones who'd seen my parents as pillars of the community. I sent it to Liar's former high school friends, the ones she still tried to impress on Instagram with her fake perfect life. I wanted everyone who knew them to understand exactly what kind of people they were. I wanted their reputation destroyed the same way they'd tried to destroy mine. Within 48 hours, my phone was flooded with messages. But I wasn't reading theirs. I was reading the messages from people thanking me. People from their church who said they always felt something was off about my mother's performative kindness. Neighbours who remembered me as the quiet older daughter who disappeared and now understood why. The payday loan company sent their collectors, of course. Men with dead eyes and expensive suits who didn't care about sob stories. They wanted their 15,000 plus the usurious interest that had already started compounding. I made sure I was there when they came. I arrived at the apartment building on a grey Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where the sky threatens rain but never quite delivers. There was a moving truck in the loading zone, half full of their pathetic belongings. Boxes labelled in Liar's handwriting markers of a life being dismantled piece by piece. They were on the sidewalk, surrounded by everything they had left in the world, which wasn't much. 2 loan sharks types were standing nearby, arms crossed, making sure they didn't try to run. That's when they saw me. I stepped out of my Mercedes, my Louboutin heels clicking against the concrete with each measured step. I was wearing my Armani power suit, the charcoal grey one I wore to hostile takeover meetings. My hair was perfect. My makeup was flawless. I looked like exactly what I was, someone who had won. The look on their faces was everything I dreamed it would be. My mother's mouth opened in shock, then hope, then recognition of what my presence really meant. Not salvation, judgment. Carenza, she breathed, taking a step toward me. Thank God you're here. These men, they're saying we owe them money, but it's all a mistake. Please tell them you'll help us sort this out. I didn't even glance at the loan sharks. I looked past my mother to the building manager standing in the doorway holding his clipboard. Are they out? I asked him. Yes, Miss Carenza. Apartment's cleared. Keys are returned as per your instructions. Good. Send me the final walkthrough report. If there's any damage, bill them through the normal channels. I paused. Actually, bill me. They won't be able to pay anyway. The building manager nodded and went back inside. That's when it hit them, really hit them. You own the building, my father said, his voice hollow. You've owned it this whole time. I own 6 buildings in this neighbourhood, I said calmly. This was the worst one. I thought it was appropriate. Liar let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. You put us in your slum on purpose. You've been playing us this entire time. No, Liar. I gave you exactly what the contract stated. A place to live within your means. It's not my fault your means are so pathetic. Noah stepped forward, his face red with rage. You vindictive bitch. We're family. You can't just destroy us like this. One of the loan sharks moved and Noah froze. They weren't there for me. They were there for him. Actually, I said, the family card doesn't work anymore. You lost that privilege when you forged documents and tried to commit fraud again. I turned to the loan sharks and handed them a business card. Gentlemen, I believe these people owe you money. Unfortunately, as you can see, they have no assets. However, I'm prepared to make you a business proposition. I'll buy their debt from you for $12,000. Cash, right now. The bigger one looked at me, calculating. The debt's already up to 18 with interest and fees. I'm aware, but 12,000 today is better than maybe getting 18,000 over months of chasing these deadbeats through court. Trust me, I've seen their finances. There's nothing to collect. They conferred quietly, then nodded. Deal. I had Ava, who'd been waiting in the car, bring over the briefcase. 12,000 in cash already counted and bundled. The exchange took less than 2 minutes. I got a signed transfer of debt agreement in return. The loan sharks left probably off to terrorise someone else who'd made bad decisions. Now it was just us, me and the family who'd raised me to believe I was worthless. My mother's legs seemed to give out. She sat down right there on the curb, her hands shaking. "Why are you doing this? What do you want from us?" I crouched down so we were eye to eye. I wanted her to see my face clearly when I said this. "I don't want anything from you anymore, Mom. That's the point. For 30 years I wanted your love. I wanted you to be proud of me. I wanted you to see me as more than just the spare child, the one who existed to serve Laia." My voice was steady, calm, surgical. "But you taught me that wanting things from you was a waste of time. You taught me that I was last on your list. Do you remember saying that? Because I remember. I remember every word. I remember the exact way you cut into that turkey while you said it like you were discussing the weather." She was crying now, tears cutting tracks through her foundation. "I didn't mean it like that. We were stressed. We made mistakes." "No." I stood up, brushing off my knees. "Mistakes are accidental. What you did was intentional. Every birthday you forgot, every achievement you dismissed, every time you gave Laia everything and gave me nothing, those weren't mistakes. Those were choices." My father found his voice. "We know we failed you. We know we were wrong. But this..." He gestured at the boxes at their entire life spread out on the sidewalk. "This is cruel. We're sorry, Carenza. We're truly sorry. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked at him, this man who'd slapped me at the dinner table for daring to ask for help, and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Sorry doesn't pay back 30 years of therapy I'll need. Sorry doesn't rebuild the self-esteem you destroyed. Sorry doesn't give me back the childhood I deserved. Sorry is just a word you're using because you finally need something from me and you've run out of other options. I started walking back to my car, but Laia's voice stopped me. "I hate you," she screamed. The polished Instagram influencer was completely gone, replaced by a desperate woman whose entire world was collapsing. "You're a monster. You're destroying us because you're jealous. You always were jealous of me." I turned back slowly. This I couldn't let pass. "Jealous?" I walked back toward her and she actually took a step back. "You think I'm jealous of you, Laia? Look at yourself. You're 29 years old and you've never held a job for more than 3 months. You have no skills, no education, no work ethic, and no future. You have $70,000 in credit card debt from buying clothes to impress people you don't even like." I stepped closer. "The only thing you ever had was Mum and Dad's money and their willingness to pretend you were special, and now that's gone. So what are you left with? A criminal boyfriend, no job prospects, and an eviction on your record." Her hand came up to slap me, but I caught her wrist mid-air. My grip was gentle but firm. "Don't," I said quietly. "You get one free shot at me, and Dad already used it 10 years ago. You don't get another one." I released her wrist and looked at all 3 of them, really looked at them. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "That 15,000 you borrowed from the loan sharks, I now own that debt. You're going to pay me back every penny plus the interest I'm legally entitled to charge. I'm setting up a payment plan. $50 a month." Noah did the math. "That'll take us 25 years to pay off with interest." "Yes," I said. 25 years. Roughly the same amount of time you all spent teaching me that I didn't matter. Seems fair to me." I pulled out an envelope from my bag and handed it to my father. "These are the new terms. You can accept them, or I can sell this debt to an actual collection agency that won't be as generous as I'm being. Your choice." "Generous," my mother's voice cracked. "You call this generous?" "I call it justice," I said. "I'm giving you the same chance you gave me. The chance to survive on your own with no help, no safety net, and everyone telling you that you brought this on yourselves." The rain finally started, light drops that would soon become a downpour. Perfect timing. "Where are we supposed to go?" my father asked, looking at the sky. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot. "There's a shelter 3 blocks from here. They serve dinner at 6. I've already called and told them you're coming. They have beds available." The look of absolute horror on his face was delicious. "A homeless shelter? You're sending us to a homeless shelter." "It's temporary housing for people experiencing hardship," I corrected. "And yes, it's where people go when they have no money and no options. You should be familiar with the concept. It's where I almost ended up 10 years ago when you refused to help me." I opened my car door, then paused. There was one more thing I needed to say. You told me once that Lia's needs would always be your priority, that I was last on your list. Do you remember what I said when I left that night? My mother nodded, barely visible through her tears. I said I wouldn't come back until you begged me to. Well, you came to my office. You came to my home. You got on your knees in a parking garage. And you know what? It still wasn't enough. Because I realised something important. I don't need you to beg. I don't need your apology. I don't need anything from you at all. I got into my car, the leather seat cool against my back. I lowered the window one last time. Goodbye, Mum. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, Lia. I hope the shelter has space for all of you. If not, there's always the one on 5th Street. I heard they're less crowded. Carenza, please. My mother tried to run toward the car, but the rain was falling harder now and she slipped on the wet pavement. I didn't stop. I didn't help her up. I drove away watching them in my rearview mirror until they were just shapes in the rain, getting smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. That was 3 months ago. Today I'm on a yacht off the coast of Santorini with Ava. The Aegean Sea is endless blue, the white cliffside buildings glowing pink and gold in the sunset. We're celebrating my promotion to partner at the firm. At 32, I'm the youngest partner in company history. My phone rings against the deck. Mum, the 4th call today, the 17th this week. I pick it up, feeling its weight. For a moment, a ghost of the old Carenza whispers in my mind. The one who would have accepted crumbs of affection. The one who believed family meant endless forgiveness. But that Carenza died 10 years ago in a snowstorm. I throw the phone as hard as I can. It arcs through the golden sunset and disappears into the sea. Ava doesn't look up from her book. Was that your mom again? Was, I say, past tense. She refills our champagne glasses. To freedom. To freedom, I echo as we clink glasses. People ask if I have regrets, if I feel guilty, if I went too far. The answer is no, not even a little bit. They spent 30 years teaching me I was worthless, that my pain didn't matter, that family love was conditional. They taught me these lessons every single day. I just made sure they learnt the same lesson. The difference, I survived what they taught me and came out stronger. I turned their rejection into fuel and built an empire. They took my rejection and crumbled. I was strong enough to survive being unloved by people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. They weren't strong enough to survive being held accountable for once in their lives. The best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's building something so magnificent they can't touch it. It's becoming so successful their approval becomes irrelevant. I spent 3 decades trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. Now I spend my days surrounded by people who value me, respect me, and treat me like I matter. That's not revenge, that's justice. As the sun sinks into liquid gold, I make myself a promise. I will never accept less than I deserve. I will never beg for scraps of affection. I will never put someone else's needs before my happiness. And I will never let anyone make me feel last on the list again. Because I'm not last anymore, I'm free. So here's my question for you. Have you been the family scapegoat? Been told you don't matter as much as your siblings? Given everything to people who gave you nothing? Drop a comment and tell me your story. If you're still in that situation, still trying to earn love from people who will never give it, let this be your wake-up call. You deserve better. You always did. Hit subscribe if you believe the best thing you can do for yourself is sometimes walk away. Smash that like if you think family is something you choose, not something you're stuck with. Because blood doesn't make you family. Love, respect, and mutual support make you family. And if you don't have that, you don't owe anyone anything, not even your parents, especially not your parents.